Hello everyone, my name is Arun and welcome to my channel. This series is a series of plotting tutorials using Matplotlib in Python. Now in this tutorial we'll be looking at Candlestick OHLC plots. Now this will actually make much more sense if I actually show a Candlestick OHLC plot. Now this is actually an example of that plot. So let's say you have some kind of a stock market data, and which actually has a lot of fluctuations within the day, and it also has some fluctuations and tendencies throughout. It has some kind of a time series, and you want to see at what value the stock actually opened up, at what value the stock actually closed up in that particular day, what was the lowest value it reached, the stock price value, the lowest value it reached, and the highest value it reached. And you want to see if the stock is actually stock price is actually rising with time or falling with time, and you want to see all the 6 information in one single plot. Then Candlestick OHLC plots are very useful. This OHLC actually stands for the open, high, close, and low values. Values. Now we're going to need some data to get this kind of a plot. So first what I've done here is I've just gone into this website nseindia.com, which is actually the national Sensex Index website, and here I've actually taken up the Nifty 50 index and the Nifty 50 index values, and from between 1st of April 2017 to 15th of March 2017. Okay, this is all the data I have. I actually download this in a CSV file. You can either follow me in this example, or you can actually take up your own stock market data, or some finance data, or some other data, wherein some other data need not be financially or stock market. It may be something else too, like some other variable which has some kind of a fluctuation within a particular day, and also has some kind of fluctuation throughout the time series or something like that. Any data for that matter. This is just an example. So you can get this data, and this data is in actually a CSV file. So in this video, first part of it is going to extract the CSV file, extract the data from the CSV file, and put them in a format that we can work with. And the second part of it, we'll actually do this plotting. Alright, so let's get started. So I've got this down file over here, and this is actually this data CSV file that is downloaded. First thing you have to notice is that all this data is actually in strings, and they are actually separated by commas, hence it is the CSV file. So first what you have to do is you have to extract all this data, convert them into NumPy arrays, or convert them into homogeneous data sets, data type arrays, and then use them in the plots. That'll make it better. Okay, so first let's get started. Let me push this to the presentation mode. So in this program what we're going to do is plotting. It's actually a plotting tutorials in Python, and now what we're going to do, we're going to look at stick open OHLC, high, low, close plots. Okay, this is applies in stock market data. Okay, now as usual we need NumPy for this, NumPy as NP, and now for this particular data set we need this CSV file. So we are going to use this import CSV, and then now we have to import the Matplotlib files from matplotlib.pyplot as plt, and then from Matplotlib we are going to import dates. We're going to import dates, ticker. I'll tell you what these means in a second. We're going to import these two, and then we're going to import Matplotlib as it is, and then finally one more important thing, from matplotlib.finance we're going to import this Candlestick OHLC, which actually stands for Candlestick Open, High, Low, Close Plot. Alright, now let's set the Matplotlib style use, and let's set this to default. If you want, we can actually change this in the future. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah, as mpl. Alright, and now let's give a file name. File name is this file has the name data.csv. CSV. Alright, and now what we're going to do is let's create some create some empty arrays, not empty arrays, empty lists. Let me copy and paste them from over here. One list for storing all the dates, one for open values, one for high values, other one for low values, other one for closing values, other one for trade volume, other one for the turnover. And now with these empty files, let's actually extract the data. We can use this with construct in Python, which is actually handy, with open file name fname with in the read format. Okay, we're opening this with the name csv file, okay, colon, and with this way, if there is any problem with the with file opening up, okay, all the things that we do on the bottom are like extracting all the data will close immediately. Okay, thereby saving us some errors and debugs. Anyway, proceeding on, let's create this data. Let this data be csv dot reader. Using this reader, we'll actually read this csv file. So this is kind of like a data pointer. I mean, it's actually not data pointer, it's actually data, and then delimiter is actually just a comma, and now let's extract the lines. For line in data, so in each line there is actually there will be 7 data, one for the date, other for the open, high, low, close, trade, and turnover. So what we're going to do is let's take up all these separate all this data and then append them up just like that. So the first value will append the date, second value will append the open value, third one will open the high, fourth will go into the low, fifth one will to the close data, the next one will go to the trade volume, other one will go to the turnover. All right, and now let's write them. Let's give some comments over here, thereby we understand what's happening. Empty list to extract the data from CSV files, okay, CSV file, and then extracting data, okay. And now what we'll do is just for a sanity check, that the 18th entry in trade and turn is actually just actually a minus sign, so we have to replace that with some for sanity, not for sanity, just to avoid some complexities in the future. Let's replace those values by 0, removing minus in data. Okay, that's it. And now what we're going to do is since all of them are in list, let's convert them into actual NumPy arrays, and that is fairly simple. What we do over here is we're not taking all the values, we're just taking only the values from the index 1 till the end, because the index 0 will have a title like a high, low, close value title, so we're going to remove that. Okay, and this is actually conversion to NumPy arrays. And now if you look at it, we just need one more thing. We need to process these dates. In Matplotlib, especially for plotting all this date values, Matplotlib is happy if you give the dates in some kind of a floating number format, and it'll automatically generate the format for us. Okay, so if you have the data with you available, you have to convert the data, the dates string format into some kind of a number. Okay, for that this is a bit tricky. I mean, this is a bit confusing, so let me just walk you through. You have to write a small loop like this to do it. Matplotlib needs dates in floating numbers to plot them inside under the hood. Okay, so we need the dates in some kind of a numeric or floating numbers. Okay, so we create this empty list called as data underscore dates. Okay, and we're taking each and every date from date data and then converting them into a particular string using the particular taking the string with data and converting them into a number using this function dates to num. Okay, this dates is actually coming from the value we use at the top. All right. Okay, and this, after converting this dates into a equivalent number, that number gets appended inside this data, in this array. All right, array list. And now final thing that we're going to do before actually plotting is actually to make a consolidated quotation data for the OHLC plot. So this is how it goes. So you create an empty list over here, and you start with an indice, and while this indice is less than the data time series data, you create a tuple or a list, whichever way you call it, and then you pass in the data dates, open value, high value, low value. Okay, you collect the individual values up and then append them to this OHLC data. Okay, thereby you create a list having lists as entries. You need to create them up in this particular format. And now once you have them in this particular format, you can actually go ahead and proceed. Okay, now to plot this is actually fairly simple. It's not that complicated. Okay, so this is for creating a compacted bulk data for the OHLC plot. Okay, now first we need to create a axis. Let's create one figure and axis handle, and then thereby we can actually get a plot out of it. So this way, with using this plt.sub, it's actually subplots, we can get a figure object, and we're creating an axis object, and with this axis object we can actually go and look at the plots. And to make the candlestick, it's very easy. So just type candlestick underscore OHLC, and then it's actually asking for an axis, so you type AX1, and then for OHLC it requires something called as the quotes, or the quotes, which is actually the consolidated data, the bulk data which we made. This is actually OHLC data, so we'll pass that. Okay, we'll pass that. And the other things that you might need is actually the width. This is going to have some bar chart like width, so let's keep it as 0.5 units. And then whenever this candlestick plot over here is actually rising up, we need to give a color when the trend is actually rising. We need to give a color for when the trend is actually falling. Otherwise, if we just don't give it, we'll just take one single color and do it all together. Okay, so we have to give two colors. So the first color is color up, and let's give it green to indicate it's a rise. And then there is another option called as color down, and this is actually, let's give it red. And of course there's this one more option called as alpha. This will set up the opacity. Let's put it 80% opacity. Not much of a big deal. And now let's put plt.show, and finally let's run this code and see how this turns out to be. This is actually a pretty long code, I know. Let's run this code, and there you go. You have your candlestick plot for this particular data. You have the y-axis, you have the x-axis, and the x-axis, instead of having the number dates presented in a particular format, they're actually presented in this kind of a haphazard format. This is not that good to look at. The dates are screwed up. don't worry, we'll fix this up. But the thing to notice over here is that in this particular figure, we're able to get all the open values, closed values, lowest value of the stock in a particular day, highest value of the stock in a particular day, all of them in a single figure. And whenever the stock is actually falling, we get them in red color, and whenever the stock is actually rising, we get them in the green color over here. Now, just to cross verify all this to see if it is actually getting them properly, let me just copy all this, copy this particular piece of code. Actually, I've written this in another program over here. Let me copy and paste this over here. Okay, let's cross verify. Let's look at the superimpose the open value along with the OHLC data and see where they match up with. So if you open this up, zoom this up, clearly there's a bottommost part of the greener curves, or the rising trends. They indicate the open values, whereas the topmost value of the decreasing days have the open values, which is actually fairly intuitive, and it's actually plotted that pretty well. And similarly, if you want, instead of the open values, if you want to plot the closed values and see how this turns out to be, sure enough, just like the previous case, but in a slightly modified manner, the upper values of this bar or the candle is actually the closed values, and the lower value of that's for the rising side. For the falling side, the lower value is actually the closed value. That's fairly obvious. And similarly, if you want to get the highest in the candlestick, we use this high underscore val. If you look for the highest values, sure enough, the highest peaks that highest values that the stock achieved in a particular day, they actually they actually counted using this plot over here, clearly indicating that these top values are actually the highs. And similarly, if just for clarification and for contentment, if you want to look at the lowest values, I can run this particular plot over here, and this will actually plot on the lowest values it will achieve. So just imagine, instead of having a candlestick plot like this, if I have some stock and I want to see the highest, lowest, the opening value and the closing value for each and every day, you'll get some plots, 4 plots like this, and you have to put a legend, and this could actually be a little bit confusing and a little bit messy to follow. On the other hand, instead of avoiding this particular mess over here, this candlestick plot is actually a much more a compacted and an efficient, efficient way to visualize this. You get with the width of this bar, with the height of this bar indicates the deviation, whereas the highs and lows and this particular line indicates how much there is a fluctuation in a particular. This is actually much more easier to look at. All right, and now with this being said, let's actually go and do a little bit more adjustments to this plot, thereby making everything neat. First thing you have to look at is we have to go and fix this date at the bottom, because this date is actually, instead of the date is actually plotting the numbers. First we need to set the format for it. So I'm actually copying this particular line over here, and this particular line is actually the date format. So day format for X labels. So using this dates option, there's this function called as date, a formatter inside, and inside this you specify the dates format. So small d stands for the date, B stands for the month in short notation. Like if you want to write April, you write APR. Okay, if you write a capital B, it's going to give you the full month in words. If you put a capital Y, it's going to give you the years in the full year. Okay, this is the date format we use, and to mention that in the plot, we need this particular line. Since we're using axis 1, axis 1. So we put ax1.x-axis.set major formatter, and inside this formatter we put this format option that we defined over here. So date format for x labels, formats the dates, and that's it. Now if you run this particular code, now we get this code to be as per our convenience. Now if you look at it, each and every data information has a particular date stamp in it, and this date stamp is actually much more how do I put it, much more intuitive and informative. And now what we'll do is, we remember this ticker option we put at the top. Let's say if you want to set the number of dates. Here, if by default it just gives me only 5 to 6 dates. Okay, like it might be necessary for you to have like more dates mentioned over here. Let's say like 10 dates or something like that, and we can actually control that. So there is this option over here, and that is actually called as the set major locator, and inside this we are going to pass this option called as ticker.max end locator. So this will indicate the number of ticks that you want to put. So it will just specify the number of ticks in x-axis. This will specify the number of ticks you want in the x-axis. So if you define the maximum number of ticks to be 10, at the maximum in a particular plot, no matter how much you zoomed in or zoomed out, there will be only 10 locations. Okay, so let's have a look. Now clearly if you look at it, there are actually 10 locations. Now when this plot is they are actually jammed, I mean superimposing on each other, they're trying to overwrite each other, but that's okay, we'll fix that in a second. Now we'll have at least 10 to 11 data, and now if I were to zoom this particular piece of data, okay, in the particular data, you have them coming up well, and they're actually showing accordingly. At any instant there will be 10 timestamp data at the bottom, which is actually useful for looking into it. And now since here we had to set some, let's make this a little more fancy. So I'm going to copy some lines of code over here, and let me paste it, and let me walk you through what it is. It's not that difficult. Now what I've done here is I just put the x-ticks to be having a rotation of about 30 degrees, and then I add a grid, and then I add an x label, a y label. The x label is actually the date, and then I put the y label. I'll put this title layout a little later, and then I put a title indicating historical data for Nifty 50 for period between 1st April to 15th May 2017. And if I run this particular code, okay, there you go. This figure is actually this figure is almost complete, in the sense, now that you look at it, you have the grid, you have the indices, you have the color plots, you have the title. All of them are perfect. Even the dates are actually rotated by 30 degrees so that they don't intersect with each other. That's okay. But the problem you notice over here is this is actually eating up the space. We need a little more space at the bottom. Okay, so there can be two things there are two things that you can do. Either you push the bottom, you can actually adjust the bottom sides over here. For instance, there is this configuration applet over here, wherein you can actually set the bottom width, the top width, and all to your setting. Otherwise, what you can actually do is you can actually put this tight layout option button. Just click this tight layout option, and will automatically set the figure accordingly to you. Okay, to make this up. Otherwise, there is this command over here. This will help you to make the plot on the fly. So if you enable this plt.tight layout, okay, so that the plot will readjust itself, so that all the plot elements get printed out properly. Okay, now this plot, Candlestick OHLC plot, is complete. So just to give you a walkthrough, so we have the data over here. We import all these options over here. So this is actually the file name. So we're just creating empty list over here, and we're actually extracting this data from the CSV files in this particular piece of code. And then we just removing the minus signs in the code, in the minus signs of the data. Since the data is pretty small, we can actually do it by ourselves. and then we're converting all the important data into NumPy arrays. And then Matplotlib wants the dates to be in a floating point number format. So we need to use this loop to make sure that all the dates are converted into an equivalent number format that we can use in the plots. Okay, and then here what we're going to do is we're just taking up all the dates, open, high, low, close values, and then we're actually joining them to form a bulk compacted data. Okay, and then we create a figure and an axis handles for axis handles, and then we use this Candlestick OHLC plot, and then we specify the axis, the compacted data, the width of the bar, the color for the bar if the data is actually going up, the color of the bar when the data is actually going down, and our transparency parameter to define how thick or high the color should, how intense or how transparent the color should be, or how opaque the color should be. And if you can you can uncomment these lines to verify with yourself whether the open, close, high and low values are actually plotted properly. Here we specify the date format, and the date format is actually specified over here. You specify how the dates have to be specified in the axis. You do that in this particular piece, in this particular line. Okay, and here you actually specify how many ticks you want in the x-axis, how many major ticks you want in the x-axis, and you rotate the dates by about 30 degrees. You put a grid, you put an x label, y label, title, and you put this tight underscore layout. Thereby everything gets plotted, everything gets represented in the figure properly, without any information pushing to the bottom or the left or top of the figure. And then we put this plt.show. Thereby we're getting this entire plot ready in a proper manner. Now that's all I have for you all in this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time in another interesting video. Till then, take care.